Hello and welcome back. My name is Rosie.
And my name is Paul.
And this
It's
is
Sinister.
I like leaving you to it.
It puts me all out of proportion.
Sorry, should we try again?
No, it's good. We'll go with that.
You love it because it's just you.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to briefly talk about the previous case. So, video terms, it's not the previous case, but podcast-wise, it is the previous case. The Jojo Dullard case that we put up last week. So I thought
that was really made a popular case for us.
It was a very popular case for us. I also thought it was interesting how there was kind of like a tiny breakthrough in the case in a sense where a man was actually arrested the following day. He was released again. Nothing did come of it. However, that doesn't mean it's the end, and I just think it's really nice to hear that new breaks in the case are still happening 29 years later. That makes me very happy. But no, anything that could end up coming out of the Jojo case now, that would be amazing, and we're really hoping for something new, especially because they have got a search going on now. Another search of Woodland area is happening. So hopefully...
Yeah, should look. Touch wood.
Yeah, hopefully something comes out. Absolutely. So I thought today we would go back to a solved case because those are always nice to know that someone's actually faced justice.
Is this a case we've done already?
This is not a case, it's a brand new fresh case. So today we have a case from the US, and this is the very sad case of Zebb Quinn, who was only 18 years old at the time of all of these events.
Zebb Quinn, USA.
So let me tell you about Zebb. Zebb Wayne Quinn was born on the 12th of May, 1981 in Asheville, North Carolina. He was described as a very likable, completely harmless person without a single bad bone in his body. He was very close with his family, particularly his mum, Denise, and was just a really sweet kid. It was stated that Zebb did have some type of learning disability, but that wasn't stopping him from I've got here working his tush off. He had graduated high school and was attending Asheville Buncombe Technical Community College. It was a bit of a mouthful.
That's a mouthful.
Yeah. Whilst working at his local Walmart in the electronics department, and he had also been enrolled in an ROTC program, which is the Reserve Officers Training Corps.
It's been looking at army boy.
Yeah. I think achieving all of that at 18 is really impressive. And then he also had dreams of becoming a sports broadcaster. So he really just wanted to do it all.
The expectations were high.
Oh my gosh, the expectations were high. He clearly was not having a break for himself. He was on the go, work all the time. Just a nice guy too. So come the 2nd of January 2000, and Zebb was working a normal shift at Walmart. A co-worker said it was around 7:30 when Zebb was seen in the parking lot talking to a former Walmart employee, Robert Jason Owens, who just goes by Jason. So Jason and Zebb had previously been co-workers at this Walmart, and they were friends who would occasionally go fishing and play pool together. So it turned out that Jason had heard of a used car that he thought Zebb would like and be interested in purchasing. So the pair organised to travel to Leicester after Zebb finished his shift. I did a little looking up, and it seemed to be about 20 minutes drive away from Asheville. So Zebb went back to work and finished his shift around 9 p.m. that evening, and then in his own car followed Jason to go see this car. However, the following day, Zebb wasn't home and he hadn't gone to work. Zebb had a pager that he wasn't responding to. And this left his mother Denise to file a missing persons report. So police looked into it, but as I said, he was a good person, never harmed anyone. They really couldn't find a motive and didn't have anything to go off. Jason had also admitted himself to urgent care that morning, presenting with fractured ribs and a head injury, stating a car accident that morning had caused the damage. A police report wasn't filed, however, his injuries supposedly were not consistent with a vehicle collision. On the 4th, someone called the Walmart claiming to be Zebb, informing the employee on the phone that he wouldn't be in for work that day due to an illness. However, the employee knew Zebb's voice, and the caller didn't sound like Zebb. So after hanging up, this quick-thinking employee pressed star 69. Do you remember that, to return a phone call? Return the call because obviously that was 2000. Here, the call went through to a Volvo construction company who she knew former employee Jason worked for. So, without missing a beat, she called the police to inform them of this weird situation. Clearly, she's thinking Jason's called. Bit odd. He was the last person Zebb was seen with.
Yeah, that kind of obvious enough. It kind of turns to Jason.
It's a bit too much. So police go and question Jason, who tells them that he was just doing a favour for his friend Zebb, who he didn't want to get in trouble for not going to work. So supposedly Zebb had contacted Jason, said he didn't want to go to work that day, and asked him to call in sick for him. So obviously police then go back and do their research and find out that Jason was also the last person to see Zebb, so then they have more questions for him. So Jason runs them through the previous night. Jason explained how the pair stopped at a service station to buy drinks, which was caught on camera, as the two young men were seen going in there and then leaving in the direction of Leicester at 9:14 p.m. Jason said while driving, Zebb started flashing him, signalling for him to pull over. Zebb then told Jason that he had received a page he needed to return a call to and left to find a payphone. Zebb returned to Jason around 9:30 p.m, reportedly excited and frantic enough to rear-end Jason's truck. He offered to pay for damages but told Jason he would need to cancel their plans for that evening as something had come up, and that was when Zebb sped off out of the area. That being the last time Jason had seen Zebb. Jason said he didn't know who or what the call was in regards to. So obviously Jason's still considered a primary suspect in the disappearance. That's a bit sus, bit off.
Look, the last person to have any contact is bound to be
a suspect, of course. However, a lack of evidence prevented any type of arrest, and the investigation had to just continue as normal. As the days did go on, Zebb's co-workers had posters looking for information in the Walmart, and they also wore yellow ribbons as a sign of their concern for Zebb's safety. It seemed like a really nice community support and awareness thing they had going on, to be honest.
And this is like the following day after?
No, this was kind of as the investigation was ongoing, maybe like a week later. Zebb's still missing, but they were really wanting to garner attention for his disappearance. Local police even said while out in the community, they were getting 10 to 15 inquiries on Zebb every single day, and people were just desperate to hear about his safe return.
That must be kind of a close-knit community.
I'd say it was like a smaller town kind of thing.
Everyone kind of knew everyone else's business.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know what kind of communities are it.
Yeah. So throughout the investigation, the name Misty Taylor kept coming up. It was made clear that leading up to his disappearance, Zebb had quite an affection for this 19-year-old Misty. So I believe they had gone to the same school, but actually met through Misty's mother while at a restaurant. And the pair were becoming quite good friends in the months leading up to Zebb's disappearance. So Misty informed the police that the two were just friends, and she had a boyfriend named Wesley Smith, who was also aware of Zebb and Misty's friendship. Now, Zebb had informed his family that Wesley was quite abusive towards Misty, and sometime in the weeks preceding the disappearance, Zebb had told his family that Wesley had actually made a threatening phone call towards Zebb over the fact that he spent time with Misty. Now, it's unknown what the threat was. I don't know if he'd threatened his safety or what, that's unknown. That was never made clear. It was just made clear by Zebb's mother and sister that Wesley wasn't happy about any type of relationship between Zebb and Misty.
He was being a jealous boyfriend.
He was being a jealous boyfriend, but I suppose him already being an abusive boyfriend, he was just an aggressive type of person. It wasn't done in any type of healthy way. You know what I mean? So both Wesley and Misty denied any involvement in Zebb's disappearance, and there was nothing linking them to Jason. So the three of them could not have possibly kind of been linked. And him being the last person to see Zebb that evening, they really kind of wanted to link Jason somehow.
Jason was the prime suspect.
Yeah.
But then again, look, they don't have
anything.
They don't have any sign of Zebb, so...
No, and I don't think they should be trying to connect Jason necessarily if there's two people that they think could be linked to it in a separate way. Ultimately, nothing really came from it. So Zebb's family became more concerned, and Denise was making it clear that she didn't believe her son was missing by choice, stating that if he was missing by choice, it was because something was scaring him enough to keep him away. Then police were able to trace back the page that Zebb had received the night of his disappearance to his paternal aunt's home. This was a woman named Ina Ustich, who Zebb wasn't particularly close with. So it would have been quite out of the ordinary for her to just randomly page him wanting to communicate.
Was she wealthy and it could be on the way out?
I'm not sure. So police went and interviewed Ina, who denied having attempted to contact Zebb that night, informing police that she wasn't even home at the time that happened, since she was having dinner at her friend Tamra Taylor's home, who happens to be the mother of Misty Taylor.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, yeah, go on.
So Ina informed police that Misty and Wesley were also at home that night, as in Tamra's home, and they were all there for dinner, essentially giving them an alibi as well. Interestingly, though, Ina had filed a police report stating that her home was broken into the evening of Zebb's disappearance while she was having dinner at Tamra's. Ina said that nothing was stolen, but picture frames and other items had been moved around in her home. And by the sounds of things, someone, while in her home, used her phone to contact Zebb.
And had she not this reported beforehand that her home was broken into?
No, I don't think so. I think she reported it as they came questioning her about this.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, nothing really came of this at the time. So there were bits and pieces at unknown times throughout this case. Police found out that Jason had gone into urgent care that morning after Zebb's disappearance and questioned why he hadn't informed them of that when they initially interviewed him. But he just stated it had nothing to do with Zebb or him rear-ending him. It was a completely different car accident, so he didn't think to mention it. Now, all this time, police couldn't so much as trace Zebb's car, but on the 16th of January, his car was randomly left in the parking lot of the Little Pigs barbecue restaurant. It was actually a co-worker of Denise's who informed her of this, since that location was only across the road from the hospital Denise worked at.
Denise, who's Denise though?
Zebb's mother.
Oh, Zebb's mother, sorry.
So his car has been missing for 2 weeks since the disappearance and has just randomly now appeared in a very public location. It definitely wasn't there before.
So someone moved Zebb's car.
Someone's moved Zebb's car. Directly across the road from where his mother works. Remembering this is a small town, everyone knows everyone and everything about everyone. So it was just believed that it was someone knowing where Denise worked that placed the car there, or it being just an open enough spot for it to be found. But the car had been left with the headlights on, giant pink lips drawn in lipstick on the back windscreen, with giant exclamation marks on either side, and a live black Labrador puppy in the back seat, which is really fucking weird.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand why there'd be a puppy in there.
Yeah, it's not making sense yet. But...
No, I know the story and it still doesn't make sense to me, I'm not going to lie. But anyway, happy little part of this story, the puppy was adopted by one of the investigators, which I think is very nice.
Cute.
Police also found a hotel key card, which they were unable to trace back to any hotel, as well as several drink bottles and a jacket that didn't belong to Zebb. Police took a load of forensic evidence from the car, but this didn't uncover new leads. It's a very tricky case, this one. A couple ended up coming forward saying they'd seen that car being driven by a white female around 25 to 30 years old with light brown curly hair. A composite sketch was made. It didn't really look like a human at all. It was very alien looking. However, police found a likeness to Misty Taylor. Again, nothing really came of this. Missy denied doing anything, having anything to do with any of this, and that was kind of end of story. Misty would be interviewed 6 times between 2000 and 2009, and her boyfriend Wesley 3 times.
Yeah, over a 9-year period.
Over a 9-year period. This was in no way a fast closed case.
And still no sign of Zebb's body in this 9 years?
9 years, no. It took a lot more years. Misty ended up giving DNA evidence to compare it to the car in 2009, and she wasn't seen as a suspect. It was never disclosed if anything came of this. I'm assuming since it wasn't disclosed, nothing did come of this. But still, like, even when giving DNA evidence, she was not seen as a suspect, supposedly. And Jason's home, like the property he lived on, ended up being searched for any sign that Zebb had been anywhere around that property, and nothing came from that. Nothing happened to Zebb on that property. But police discovered that Jason's mum had actually filed a missing persons report on him the morning following Zebb's disappearance, since he hadn't returned home that night. Again, another thing that he'd kept from police the entire time.
Jason was monitored for the missing person
on him because he never returned the night of Zebb's disappearance, and then went to the hospital early the next day instead of coming home and things like that, and he just disappeared, so she put a missing persons report on him. Then between 2002 and 2009, Jason ended up spending a lot of time in and out of jail. There was a lot of driving-related offences, impaired driving, speeding to elude arrest, as in, like, police were driving after him, he was speeding, not pulling over, and drunk and disorderly conduct.
But was this out of character for Jason?
I don't believe so. It seems like he was just... This was between 2002 and 2009. Yeah, this is a long period of time to be doing all these things.
It was 2000 when Zebb
went missing, yeah. So the investigation was ongoing. Police were doing reenactments of the events, but unfortunately nothing seemed to be giving them any evidence on what could have happened to Zebb that night. They were giving leeway on the potential joyriding charges if anyone could come forward with where they found the car before moving it to the parking lot. It just seemed like they were not getting a lot to work on, kind of thing. So they were hoping that someone had just found Zebb's car somewhere and like stolen it, driving it to the parking lot, but they didn't actually have anything to do with Zebb's murder.
Yeah, but like, why would they end up leaving a puppy in it? And
why would they do so many things came forward?
If it was found in a busy car park, was it no CCTV or...
Nothing like CCTV has come out about this.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, that's why people probably put the car there, but they knew there wasn't CCTV.
Maybe that too. Yeah, I suppose if it was somewhere like parked in the hospital, there'd be like surely cameras there and stuff. Then in March 2015, Jason was charged with the murders of former Food Network star contestant Christy Scowen-Codd, her husband Joseph Codd, and their unborn child, since Christy was 5 months pregnant. And this happened in Leicester, North Carolina.
I presume this was a car accident.
Do you know what? This was so much worse. He was working on their property and he ran them down in like work gear, like in a truck thing, like a digger or something like that, like machinery. He ran the husband down, then he ran her down, and then he dismembered their bodies.
Okay, right. Yeah, different than a car accident.
Very different, because I was there thinking he did run them down, but had he just run them down and then called someone, he dismembered their bodies. That's not a normal reaction, I don't believe. And it was one after the other. He claimed it was an accident, but one and then the other seems a bit... Yeah,
that's what we could claim as an accident by knock him down, but not by chop him up.
Yeah. And also 2 separate occasions of running them down.
Yeah, that's a bit bad luck.
So, his previous charges would have been a far stretch to murder, the drink driving, drunk and disorderly, things like that. However, pleading guilty on all 3 counts, he did say it was an accident, but dismembering their body isn't an accident. But while again investigating his home during this arrest, they unearthed materials under concrete on his property, seemingly linked with Zebb Quinn, and at another part of this property found numerous plastic bags containing something like pulverized lime or powdered mortar mix, as well as what was quite possibly Zebb's remains. What's powdered lime? Oh, sorry, pulverized lime.
Basically, lime, it'd be like a cement.
Okay.
It could decompose the body, skin. I saw new pictures of cement burns. So that was lime. Cement, because it's something similar.
Okay.
But I'd say it would be a long time before it actually decomposed the body.
That would have been 18 years later.
Yeah, I say more couldn't decompose bones. I say more skin, and
Okay.
it could stop it swelling and.
Okay. Remember the story he said about people like losing limbs and stuff, and people's feet staying in their work boots because like cement was in the work boots and stuff?
Yeah.
Was that not that the bone had decomposed as well, had not grinded away as well?
No, it's skin, flesh. They burned the skin off.
Okay.
You still see the flesh.
Right. So in 2018, police attempted to charge Jason with Zebb's death, but it was actually Jason's uncle Walter, or Gene Owens, who Jason witnessed having shot Zebb. However, his uncle had passed away in 2017 and thus couldn't stand trial or confirm or deny these events. So Jason claimed his uncle Gene was hired by none other than Wesley Smith, aka Misty Taylor's boyfriend, to kill Zebb for having a relationship with his girlfriend, even though it was a platonic relationship.
Jason and Zebb were buddies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it was stated that unknowing to Jason, he and Zebb were being lured by Jean that night to meet Misty in a forest, which was supposedly the call that Zebb responded to that night. So supposedly the page that Zebb had gotten was like under the impression that Misty wanted to meet him in a forest, and so he was going to meet Misty. Jason said that he and Zebb went to the forest that night, having arrived to find Jean there instead of Misty, who shot Zebb with a .22 rifle, after which he dismembered and burned Zebb's body to hide the evidence. So Jason admitted to assisting his uncle in this cover-up, as in assisting to dismember his own friend, and was subsequently sentenced to 12.5 to 15.75 years in prison to be served with his other triple homicide charges. So
he won't come out for what?
No, he was not. So yes, Zebb was Jason's friend. They were supposedly lured by the uncle, and without warning, Zebb was shot. Jason couldn't do anything to fix it, but then helped his uncle hide the body.
And how did Jason's uncle get involved? Well, what has Jason's uncle got to do with Wesley?
I don't know. Somehow he'd hired this uncle to... It's very confusing. I don't know if he's known around town as being this criminal, so Wesley went, hey, I'm hiring you.
But wasn't Wesley hired Jason and Jason hired his uncle?
No, well, apparently not. Supposedly there was no connection between Wesley, Misty, and Jason. So it was just that Wesley had hired Jean. Jean lured Zebb, who he didn't realise was going to be with Jason, his nephew, into this forest. But then, consequently, Jason was a witness in
Jason turned up.
Yeah. It's a very odd case.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he admitted to it and he went to jail for a very long time. He is still in jail.
Well, I suppose after killing 4 people.
Well, only guilty of killing 3, but
I suppose
guilty in 1 assisted cover-up.
Yeah. So look, who needs friends when you have enemies like Jason?
Who needs enemies when you have friends like Jason?
How did Jason get his injuries that night?
I reckon it would have been from... This never comes out, by the way. If it has come out, it was never in the media or anything. I could not find anything. I personally feel like either Jean kind of beat him into it. Huh?
At the butt of the gun?
Well, I don't know. Jason had more to do with it than he wanted to disclose and had to kind of, in a sense, wrestle with Zebb to lure Zebb into this forest or something like that, you know? Like maybe Zebb had seen Jean there instead of Misty and suddenly Jason was fighting with Zebb to get him in.
I know. Well, supposedly that Jason didn't know nothing about this call that he got and he just...
Well, that's what he said initially, but then he came forward saying that it was Misty trying to hang out in the forest. Then he did, so it wasn't that Zebb had left that night. They both were unknowns to him being lured to a forest by the uncle. A very quick, but very... It's an interesting case, and I feel like having researched it, it's just very strange. And no matter what you research, you can't get any more info.
Yeah, I should look through my guess was... Yeah, see what's actually come out already.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's just very...
But sure, like it took 18 years or so for that case to solve.
It ended up taking 22.
I suppose if Jason never knocked down his people he was working for, it would have been nothing ever done.
No, had that not occurred, and as horrific as it is, and it's definitely not a thing where we're like thankful that that happened so that this could be found out. Regardless, 3 innocent people died, and that's really, really sad. But no, had he not run them down in their home while he was working in their property, this probably would have been an unsolved case for life. And I even think that time where he was refusing to pull over for police and they had a full, he could have been under the influence or whatever, but like I think it was like this, what if they've caught me for his murder?
I don't know, it's probably more of a kind of a guilt call.
Be anything.
Like, you're not going to run from the police.
No. But I don't...
He was trying to create attention to him. Just only a matter of time that he couldn't.
But part of me feels like, too, the impression I got from, like, little clips of videos and things I saw of him, I don't think he was a bad... This sounds horrible to say, he's convicted basically of 4 murders, but I don't think he was necessarily, like, a bad person. I think he grew up under shitty circumstances. I think he'd witnessed his uncle murder someone that he called a friend, and he then had to dismember the body, and tell me that wouldn't fuck you up for life.
That's what I'm saying, like, he probably... That's... So he wasn't going to know the police before this.
No, and then next minute, maybe it was just a really horrific accident where he's run down 2 people, one being pregnant, and he knows to dismember a body, and that's just what he's panicked and he's done. And I still think it's horrific, and he 100% should have called the police immediately, and this is what happened with all counts. Even if he called up to be like, my uncle has... I don't care how scared you are of someone, my uncle has killed my friend.
Yeah, so look, there was 2... There was 3 innocent people, well, 3 innocent people of one family that were caught up in all that of this. Just because they hired the wrong fella to
do their yard.
Do their garden.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Yeah. No.
So, but no, that is the story of Zebb, and thankfully years and years and years later it was found out so that his family can have closure and things like that. But it is still a heartbreaking case of like such a young boy with so much ahead of him. This was the case of Zebb, and this is everything I know.
Very good.
Yes. So were you expecting that? Were you expecting it to have anything to do with...
Well, look, Jason was always the top of the list.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Misty was kind of, her boyfriend, maybe, but look.
It's never good when there's like an abusive partner in the mix as well. I mean, it's never good anyway, but when this kind of comes up, something isn't right.
That's true. Ever hear anything after about Misty or Wesley?
I don't even know if they stayed together. Wesley did actually also go to prison.
For what?
He wasn't anywhere near as long as Jason or...
For
like orchestrating a murder. But again, yeah, it wasn't a long sentence, I'd say. He could already be out. No, that is everything. That is the story of Zebb Quinn. And we will see you
very soon.
We'll see you next week. Thank you for listening. Bye.